innovation, guys. Woo! All right. Okay, mid-afternoon. Hope everyone's caffeine is kicking in. We're really excited about this panel. The three of us got together a few weeks ago back in Los Angeles, where all of us live, and put this together. Before I jump into what we're going to cover today, I want to let David and Annelies, and then I'll introduce myself, introduce ourselves to the group, and then we'll kick off. So maybe, David, do you want to start us off?
Okay, thank you. David Boxer. I have a very similar... Oh, sorry, David Boxer. Oh, it works now. I thought it was dead. I feel like I have a very similar background to a lot of people. Brand strategy. I was an agency owner. I worked with some of the clients that people have mentioned. I've worked with in the past. I spent 10 years at Publicis and then ended up in fashion luxury, where I was president of Wednesday and I worked at Chandelier. I was CMO of Chandelier, a few others. But in the case of this conversation, I was the founder of an agency that was bought by M&C Saatchi. It was an innovation agency called THAT, Technology, Humans and Taste. Long story. But anyway, we really sort of pushed to try and capture the innovation budget for large companies. Where could this company go? What could we do with this company? So that's me.
Thank you. My name is Annelies Jansen. I was born in the Netherlands. I live in LA. It's actually very interesting. If you ask a European where they're from, they will always state the country where they were born. If you ask an American, they will say the place where they live. Fun fact. You can try it out. I'm a mom. I've got 2 kids. I think it's really important to state, especially after the conversations we had today. Somebody at lunch asked me, what's your superpower? I think my superpower is I'm a connector. And that relates to that question we had earlier on, what is it you do? I connect. Very simple. I connect people to people, people to tech, tech to problems, businesses to opportunities. And I've been really lucky, but I also believe that you create your own luck to do that in a number of corporate business settings, but also in a number of geographies. I lived and worked in 5 countries. Corporate, in the different business settings, I built my own business, a digital media business, in the days when you could still say that you worked with the Russian oligarch. I can talk about that over drinks, but it was a fantastic business. We sold it, everybody's very happy. It was still cool then. I turned around the business. I worked in corporate media, the digital innovator, the person who said digital's here to stay, will never go away, which led to building Times Online. I built Telegraph Media, digital in the UK. I launched the first streaming service in Europe for ITV. I moved to Silicon Valley to work for Facebook, and I built their global commerce proposition, building a book of business with partners from all over the world to fill the store and to enable the store. And in my last job, as in paid by somebody else, or paid by a corporation, I turned around the business and sold it. It was a commerce platform for creators. Today, I run a portfolio of companies, of board and advisory companies I help support, help grow. I have a view on equity. I think it's not always negative. And I'm also building a venture studio with a bunch of amazing people. And summing up today, a lot of it was about finding your own voice in the room. And to me, that is actually the real connection to innovation. And with that, I hand over to another beautiful voice.
Hey guys, I'm David Valentino. You can remember me because my last name, or my nickname is Tino, as opposed to Boxster over there. I'm head of operations at JumpCut. We're a venture-backed AI company working to increase quality and decrease costs in Hollywood. I also consult with seed through Series B stage businesses. I've helped raise about $25 million to date for seed A and B rounds for companies that I've helped work with. Previously, I was VP of Ops and Production for the Tyra Banks Company, and I also live in Los Angeles. So today we're talking innovation, and we're going to get right to the start with the topics we're going to cover, the questions we're going to try to answer. Up front, what we'll say is we want this to be interactive. So at any point during this, please jump in with questions, especially if they are contradictory to our opinions, because that's the best way
Please
to start a
disagree.
dialogue. So without further ado, the questions we're going to try to answer today are, A, what is innovation and what is not innovation? What does it take to be an innovator? Can innovation be taught? And if it can, how can you teach yourself to be innovative? Then, how as the board do we obtain a license to be innovative with our clients? So that's the game plan. We want to start off, though, by seeing what the hottest voice in the room or hottest technology has to say about innovation, and that is Chat GPT. So we want to ask you guys, the audience, the room, we'd love to get 3 definitions in your own words of what AI is, and I'm going to type them in here. I'm going to very rudely look down at my phone as I do so. So anyone kick us off?
So your input will generate, hopefully, with
What's
that.
the question?
What is innovation?
What is innovation?
Yeah.
Something that moves culture forward.
Something that moves culture forward.
Or habits, culture and habits and ways of life.
Got it. Love that.
Adrian?
Early adopters or early,
Something that fosters early adoption.
yeah. Much better way of saying it. Something that's never been
A
done.
lightning strike.
Oh, I like that. Something's never been done before.
Challenging conventions and improves ways of operating.
Disrupting existing technologies.
Take that back.
I am catching up. You're putting my millennial
Wait.
typing skills to the test.
Totally.
Thinking out.
I was not going to sit here and do this.
Changes the way people and companies do things.
Great. I like that. I think this is a good one to end on. Changes the way people and companies do things.
I did not just hear that.
Yes. I'm under pressure, guys. All right, and I'm hitting enter. Let's see. Okay, so ChatGPT's definition based on the prompts we gave it are: innovation is the creation of something previously unseen or experienced that propels culture forward, encourages early adoption, and fundamentally alters how people and organizations operate.
What was your prompt?
So ahead of what you guys said, I asked, can you combine the below statements into one succinct, one-sentence definition of innovation? That was the precursor prompt. Hey, there we go.
Prompt is everything, really.
All right, so let's see after this conversation if we agree or disagree with ChatGPT's version of this definition. So now that we've defined it through technology, I'll pass it to you, maybe Annelies first to answer the question, what is innovation from your POV?
To me, innovation is something that, actually I agree with ChatGPT. Because I like it because it's quite wide and everybody has their own interpretation to what is innovative for themselves. But I think there's one common denominator, it solves a problem. That's what I like to, it solves a problem.
I agree. I agree with ChatGPT too. That's it. But I think for me, if I had to sort of expand upon it and yes and it, for me, it's something that marries a problem and solution and has human impact, right? And the human impact aspect of things is the one sort of common denominator in the whole thing for innovation for me. And I like to see innovation that really affects us from a sociological standpoint, right? That really changes our habits and rituals. Technology might do it, processes might do it, there might be a lot of other things that do it, but really changes us as a society to be better and improve, hopefully. And it's not always perfect.
The beauty of both of those answers is they fundamentally go into the question of why innovation is always necessary, and that is because society and technology is changing, and that's why we, to your point, Annelies, we always have a new problem that needs to be solved. So now we've defined it. What is it not?
Okay, innovation is not related to age. I've been incredibly lucky to work with intergenerational teams, but also I always make sure when I create a team, it's not just diverse, or diversity also includes intergenerational. The beauty is when you create something new and there is a symbiotic relationship between the people in the room, and then that includes a 23-year-old who says, I disagree. I mean, that's a real compliment of a team that you create, and to me that's really important for innovation. So it's not, and I use it as an example to say it's got nothing to do with age. And also it's got nothing to do with gender.
Not at all. I don't have anything to add to that.
Disagree.
I'm not going to disagree on gender.
Well, we spent about for context, we spent 4 hours, I think, debating this panel.
We did.
And first of all, thinking that we're very lucky to be able to do this panel, and then we realized that this could be anything and everything. So I do promise we come to some sort of conclusion and takeaway.
Brilliant. So let's take that now and run with it. What does it take to be an innovator?
I think it takes, is it me too? Should I answer?
Yeah, go ahead, David. Go ahead.
Just jumping right in. It takes faith that you can change things. And you don't have to have the answer. So this idea that you can change things and you have the faith to change things is the most important thing. I think there's a belief leads to dreaming and fantasy. Fantasy leads to theory, and theory leads to existence. So, you know, we dream of something and we go, oh, I don't know if that can happen. But if you know it can happen, if you believe it can happen, that really is the mindset you have to have. And I have talked about it with these two, but it's sort of, we have the possible, right? I mean, we have what is. We know what exists, these things that happen. Then there is the possible, which is anything that could exist because of what is. And then we have the impossible. And if you shoot for the impossible, you will land in the possible. And that is the most important thing, is to just know that you can think of something that theoretically is impossible and get there.
Can you give us an example? Where you almost got to the impossible, but at least...
I'm trying to think. I'm trying to think of an example that isn't mine or isn't personal. I have examples, I think, of...
Well, if you look at the archetype,
No.
innovator,
Yeah.
right? Brands that are innovator brands are YouTube, Apple, Lego, Adobe, and Crayola.
I mean, I'm half Danish, so Lego is really passionate. I love Lego. Lego is my dream company. If anyone knows anyone at Lego, I want to work with them.
There's something interesting, especially about Lego and Crayola, outside of the tech companies I think we would all have answered as innovative. And I would argue that what makes them innovative is that they're not selling a single product anymore. Lego, yes, you can buy different sets that, like, you can build a starship or a boat, but really you're selling imagination. And that's the same thing that Crayola is selling. Exactly. And they figured out how to commoditize our genuine curiosity, as humans.
It's interesting too to think about what it's not. It's not technology, right? Those are pretty simple, grit toys. If you're working with what it is, pushing it beyond how the mind works.
Yeah. Technology just creates new channels and acceleration, like the one thing we're going to talk about later, which is AI.
It's a tool.
It's a tool.
Annelies, I'm curious to hear your POV on what it takes to be an innovator.
How long have you got?
Give me 30 seconds.
Okay. To me, it's about culture and what I just mentioned, that voice in the room. So one of the things you need to have in order to enable yourself to be that true, authentic voice in the room is you need to feel safe and you need to feel trusted. Example, when I joined Facebook, when it was still really cool to join Facebook, there was this quote from Cheryl, which is, bring your own authentic voice to work. That sounds really nice. But what do you do to make sure that people feel they can bring their own authentic voice? It's actually, you need to create a culture and an environment where people can speak up, they can call out, they can come up with an idea that maybe after 2 minutes everybody else says that's a stupid idea. And I always like to use that example that the post-mortem, we spend way more time analyzing our mistakes or the things that don't work rather than celebrating stuff that does work. And you can only do that if you work in an environment where somebody says, I made a mistake. I thought I was right, but it's not, and it's not even a mistake, but I thought it was working. I thought my hypothesis was right, but it wasn't. So to me, innovation is not one person, it's not just technology, it's a number of things, and I sum them up in creating that culture where I feel free, I have my own voice, I can share my idea. And once you bring that together in a group of people where you have the right technology, where you have the right diversity of voices, you can actually, you create a culture where innovation can land in fertile ground.
There's something interesting that feels common between both of your answers, and that is the flip side, that with finding new opportunities, with being able to have a comfortable environment where you're able to, put out new ideas, is you're taking a risk as well. The risk that in that room, you might not have the answers, or there might be someone that has more answers than you do, or that your new tactic might not work, but you have to be willing to take that risk and try something new. And maybe that's a good way to segue into the next question, which is, can innovation be taught? But before I do that, I think we have a comment.
I think that true innovators are different kind of innovators, right? And there's different kind of creative people. There are the visionaries, like Mark Zuckerberg, who had this idea, or Elon Musk, like him or not, that have these ideas, and then there are the people that can execute on them, that are innovators and creative as well, but if you think about it, it's like there's the person who thinks of the widget, and then there's the people that actually make it happen, right? But the true innovators are the ones that, think about taking a rocket to, carry people or electric car, whatever it is, and they're,
Yeah.
the people that not everybody's like that. Not everybody has. I'm creative, but I'm not. I can execute on somebody else's idea. And then that's the different kind of creative.
So your answer to that question I just asked, can innovation be taught, would be maybe not. Maybe it's intrinsic to certain people.
You can take on that idea and say, oh yeah, that's a great idea. Let's do it, right? Let's bring together these people and make it happen. But then there's the person that actually thinks about, the light bulb.
Yeah, it's that Steve Jobs. It's the Apple ad from the 1980s, like the Mavericks, the people that go for the impossible.
Yeah, you shoot for the impossible. I mean, the fact of the matter is, innovation is nearly always curbed by our own thought process, and we create the barriers for it with what we know. So the point is to say it doesn't matter whether I know how to do it. Is it a good idea? Could it be done? And there might be 15 steps and 15 sort of degrees of separation to get to it. But if you know what 1 degree is, if you get that, now you only have 14, and then you just do another, and it's iterative. And so the next thing you know, you've invented the light bulb. So I saw a hand up.
I think, I hope this sounds coherent, because I have such a challenging feeling around buzzwords that have to do with success, because we're going to be talking about success and how we kind of define it and redefine it for ourselves and also for the people that we work with. But to me, it's I think that innovation and disruption and this sort of coterie of words that we've used to sort of becomes so limiting, it becomes the exact opposite of what innovation is supposed to inspire in our hearts. It's like, to me, I've become so allergic to it, you know, having had it sort of like become this very harsh discipline around expectations, but also the, you know, for people that are sort of new in a highly competitive environment, and to see that innovation is like the ultimate sort of, you know, example of success and recognition and rewards. And, you know, really, to me, I feel like I was, in the beginning, when we were talking about innovation, it's like, it's a verb and it's a noun, and it's this place to dwell in, you know, where magic can happen. And I feel like everybody in this room is so unbelievably experienced. It feels like this whole kind of pressure cooker of energy and, like, you know, inspiration just being here. And I feel such a level of responsibility whenever I'm having these conversations around expectations of innovation, is that they're comments. You know, they really, and you have to allow for that to kind of emerge and show itself to you. You know, you can't be sort of like, I think it's just so inauthentic to have innovation be sort of the goal. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
This thing is happened to me. My first job out of college was in tech. It's a company called Trilogy, and one of our developers literally said, all this innovation, I mean, get off my back.
Yeah.
He felt exactly what you're saying. I'm just thinking
It's
of
like
him.
it can't happen if you're
it
looking
can
at it.
fail.
It's like a washcloth
Yeah.
never boils. It's like
100%.
So for us, you know, we have all this like institutional knowledge, and hopefully, you know, a direct line to our instincts. It's like we're just paying attention to the little morsels of magic as they're starting to sprout, and not like, you know, everybody jump on it, you know, and it's like, you know, press release. It's like,
Yeah.
it's not like marketed. It's like,
Yeah.
hey. And it's just like so, it's like so much, and it just really sets people up for failure.
I hate the word disruption.
Yeah.
Sorry. Hate it.
Words. I feel like in this room, to sort of like, what I love about this group is there's freshness, because we don't have the baggage of all of the, you know, sort of like the experiences and the successes and failures we all bring to the table. It just becomes experience and wisdom. But I have such an uncomfortable feeling around these as goals. It's like, and I think the way each of you talks about it is beautiful and important. I just think I'm always trying to find ways to get people excited about leaning into it without feeling like it's prison.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's beautiful. And it's kind of like, we could have called this session Lean Into New and Be Curious. And that, you know, that's, and I won't give away everything we're going to talk about in the end, which are like tangible things that you can do. But that's kind of what it comes down to, because we can come up with 20 more definitions, you know, we can perfect what ChatGPT will say. But at the end of the day, it's not just a word, it's...
No, it
No,
definitely
no,
doesn't
agree with
work.
you.
yeah.
I mean, it's actually very much
It's
full
very
circle.
important what you're saying, actually.
Yeah, and it is. It does come back to the beginning of the conversation where oh, I'm sorry.
You made me think of, again, having worked at some legacy brands and mindset. And you mentioned when it was about culture. It's a cultural mindset. There's a fixed mindset and there's a growth mindset. And you look at brands that are innovative, and we've done these workshops, and we're growing catalysts and all that. But when you think about the attributes of innovative brands, they live in a growth mindset. So it's how do you, and I'm not trying to answer the question, but I do think maybe it's a little bit of a semantic debate of really like how do you push the mindset of curiosity and growth versus people that you can be bogged down. And I think what's beautiful about this group is that we're kind of releasing the corporate shackles to be able to think and say whatever the fuck we want to.
Yeah. Especially the F word. I love it.
Yeah, that's
No, but I think you touch on a really good point, which we debated for a long time. It's when you are being asked to solve a problem in a company, many times it's because there's no growth, and therefore a team comes in and is supposed to bring innovation. That's why in the next question is like, you know, how do we take agency for the word innovation? But given that this unique team, I mean, it's not often that you find people who are dividing our time between different projects and now fractional resources, that they also have that corporate experience. And how do you bridge those two, bring them together to build something that's sustainable, and sustainable innovation? Two buzzwords, amazing. Let's keep them in there. But how do you make it sustainable? Because it's not about one or the other. And that's kind of where we got to the next question, which is how do we take agency as the board for that innovative mindset without coming up with buzzwords, and also understanding the corporate clients we work with who probably have less agency to be innovative because they just need to keep the business running.
Yeah, exactly. And I want to make sure we hit on one thing that has come up in this conversation that we've just had, which goes to something, David, you said in an earlier conversation, which is there needs to be a cultural framework. So don't worry about it. A cultural framework set up within an organization, whether it is a consultancy or a large enterprise group that allows for people to think creatively.
100%. And I think many companies, and Silicon Valley companies, have done a pretty good job of it. This idea of being given license to be inquisitive and being given license to throw your ideas out and not to be judged. We talked about the good idea, the bad idea, and the shitty idea. The good idea is good idea. Yes, let's do it. Bad idea is usually it's morally, corrupt or whatever. The shitty idea are the ideas that kind of just, they don't really have any standing, or everyone comes up with a reason why it shouldn't work. But it's the shitty ideas that if you actually explore, because usually those are pretty interesting. And if you explore those ideas and give people license to explore those ideas, you can actually turn a shitty idea into a good idea. I think, Annelies touched on it, a culture where people have license to inquire, throw out an idea without having all the answers and all the experience, and just sort of say like, what if we did this? And even if it's the most junior person in the room, they're not shot down immediately. So you could say to them, great, explore that. That's all you have to say. Sorry.
Come in and build a culture of innovation in the way that we've defined it here, which is not putting KPIs or shackles on it.
I go first, or do you want me to go?
You go first.
So it's an interesting one, actually, because I had an agency, and we had employees, and we were separate from a company, and people came to us, CEOs came to us and said, I'm going to pay you to think about where you can take my company. And we were objective. We had a 30,000-foot view, and but we started to do discovery, we started to learn. But what was interesting was that we very, very quickly realized that our job was to provide a jumping off point, but ultimately also support the change of culture within the business itself. There are shackles within a company. There are always people they shackle themselves. I mean, we've all talked about imposter syndrome. That is not something that innovation goes hand in hand with. We have a tendency to sort of use our experience as a crutch or as something that we lead into, whereas it can also be a hindrance in the space of innovation, right? So what I would say is, what we have to do, what I like to do, is bring this sort of childlike quality of questioning. And there's, I think Simon Sinek was raised before, there's a great Simon Sinek video, if anyone sees it, where he just talks about sitting in a room with CEOs and just asking dumb questions. But he asked the very simple question that just forced them to think, because they were so focused on their own internal culture.
Yeah, I think we can give ourselves agency by our own collective go-to-market, to be curious, be repetitive about the examples of pieces of work we've been involved in where we felt we were driving sustainable problem solving, i.e. innovation, without being disruptive. Sorry, I hope somebody has a bingo card there. And to be really conscious about it, to lean in, and also to me, innovation is being able to show up in front of the client and to talk about what you don't know, and kind of the bridge that you want to create between the knowledge internally and the knowledge that you bring to lead to a collective problem solving.
I think it's beautifully put. Danielle, let's give it the signal that we have a few minutes left. So we want to make sure that we give you some tangible takeaways. What is in the zeitgeist right now? Artificial intelligence. Each of us have one or two programs, products you guys can play with, or tools you can play with that will hopefully power up your consultancy. Why don't we go with you, Annelies, to start?
Okay, so I don't have a tool, but I have an example of a product that's being built that to me is a perfect presentation of the capability of AI and something that we can take with us today. Somebody I've been working with for 15 years, data scientist, and he has the amazing capacity to bring new tools to life. And I asked him, I said, what's the coolest thing that you've been working on with your clients that involves AI? And he said, well, one of my clients is actually a hospital, and a hospital has a lot of data and has a lot of people looking at different kind of data and different data, different teams, different views on that data. So how do you get to one single view? And he said, my company, we're actually building one single dashboard for the CEO and everybody else who works with the CEO, one single dashboard with real-time information based on clean data or cleaned data that helps everybody understand where we are. And I'm like, is that AI? He said, yeah. We are working with data that's already there. AI is where you can process much faster because you can imagine a hospital has tremendous amount of data and different data points. And that to me was, it put a smile on my face because I also thought if we can think about AI, using it in those, what I call simple, small improvements in how we run our businesses, it really will help us to optimize the things we do and be even more disruptive. Sorry, I had to say that.
David, go ahead.
Okay, so there's a company I know, there's an innovative use, I wouldn't call it AI, but a technology that I've been using dramatically. Anyway, there's a company called Optimatic. It ends with a K. It's optimatic.ai. It's 3 Harvard grads. It's going to put it's a sort of these things where I'm like, great, creatives are out of business, but essentially what they do is they create images of whatever it is, a person holding a bag, and it'll be your product, whatever that is, and it works great for e-com, it works great for advertising, sort of digital advertising. And it can take in data, engagement data, and immediately change the race, the color, the age, whatever, of the person. They can update the bags. And so from an A/B testing standpoint, this thing is insane. I mean, it's just going to consistently change until it's just optimizing the advertising you're seeing. And right now, it's pretty photoreal. So it's kind of scary from a sort of straight up art direction advertising standpoint. Technology-wise, for those of you who use it and for those of you who don't, I love Figma. It was started out as a web design tool, and it is just innovative. People are being so innovative with it. I use it with all my clients. We usually do all our stuff in Figma, and then we say, hey, okay, showing it to you now. We present, and then we let them in, and they can just sit there and see our little icon, little mouse running around. And yeah. Oh, I've worked all that out. and the other thing is there's loads of plugins for it. And they're all third-party plugins, and they're insane. It's amazing. And just quickly, my final one, which I mentioned to these guys, my favorite shitty idea that has come to fruition is an app called RunP, which you can get in the iPhone, in the App Store, and it is purely an app that tells you when you can go pee during a movie, for all of us older people, without missing anything.
Love it. I'll finish us off by sharing two things. One, I'll share a little bit about what we're building at our company, which is next generation AI insights for Hollywood studios. So David Zaslav, for example, CEO of Warner Brothers, can go and put in just one sentence about the idea for a future movie before $1 is spent on it, and get granular information about how many people will watch it, what the box office will be, what changes should be made to the creative to make it more appealing to X, Y, and Z groups. And it's hopefully leading to a future of better content that we all want to watch. And then in terms of a tool, I'd love to introduce everyone to something called Apollo, which is a next-gen AI lead gen tool, which can basically automate all of your prospecting, pulling in millions of cold contacts and automating the whole process of sending emails, creating personalized responses for them, and converting them over into meetings or sales. So that's our panel, everyone. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you.
Thank you.